USF basketball player and James Madison University assistant coach Ryan Kardok. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Larry.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I want to talk a little bit about your early career, if I may. I know you started out in junior college playing basketball at Broward Community College. Then you went on to big-time Big East basketball. How was that transition for you?
It's interesting you ask that because I think it's two different worlds. And I love junior college basketball. I was actually out a couple weeks ago recruiting some really good junior college players. And at the junior college level, it's very fast-paced. It's up-tempo. They're really flying the ball up the court. And there's really a lot of good guards, to be honest with you. Like when I went a couple weeks ago down to one of the Florida junior college tournaments, you'd have teams where you got 5 Division I players. And, that's what we had actually when I played at Broward. We had 4 Division I players on our team. And so there's really good players. But the difference between JUCO and the Big East is the physicality. That's one of the biggest things. The guys are just huge at that level, especially when I was in that Big East. You got teams like UConn and Louisville and Syracuse, and those guys are just really big. I remember playing against the Syracuse zone, and I was always seeing it on TV when I grew up. And when I was actually out there on the court, I was just amazed at the size. I remember one time we were playing against UConn, and it was one of my first Big East games. And, as a walk-on, I didn't play a ton, but this particular game, I was out there in the first half, and I was driving from the three-point line, and I got to about the free throw line, and Hashim Thabit was standing underneath the rim. And I literally was going to shoot a pull-up jump shot, and I realized, wait a second, I'm not sure I can get this shot off with this guy in, 7'5" or whatever he was, standing underneath the rim with his arms being so long, I felt like he could contest my shot. So I think that, those were some of the biggest things, and then also the coaching. And junior college coaches are really good. There's a lot of really good junior college coaches around the country. But when you look at that Big East conference, man, it was amazing how good of coaches were in there. You had Boeheim, you had Pitino, you had Jim Calhoun, Cincinnati, West Virginia's in there, Villanova with Jay Wright. So I think that, the coaching was a huge thing. It was amazing how good of coaches were in that league.
We're speaking with former USF basketball player and James Madison University assistant basketball coach Ryan Kardok. Ryan, when you went to walk on at USF, did you ever envision? I mean, obviously you tried out to make the team, but in reality, did you ever envision yourself making the USF basketball team?
It's funny because when I was at my junior college, especially my freshman year, I was playing well. I had, some Division I interest and offers. And, my sophomore year, I just didn't play as well. I had a few injuries, hurt my foot, broke my ankle, and I didn't play as well, to be honest with you. And so after my sophomore season was over, I had only Division II offers, and I really always wanted to play Division I. And looking back, I think obviously Division II is a great level, and a lot of the guards at the Division II level can probably play at the Division I level. So I wanted to go somewhere where I thought I could play Division I basketball. So I just chose USF. It wasn't too far from me. It was about 4 hours from me. Obviously, I knew they were in the Big East, a really good conference. So I literally just said to myself, I'm going to go talk to the coaches, and I'm going to, explain to them who I am, and then I'm going to go try and make the team. And so I went out to a tryout, and it had, dozens of guys out there. And at that moment, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this team. How can I stand out amongst all these people? And, thankfully, one of the best parts of my game was I just tried to play really hard. Dive on loose balls, take charges, and things like that. And I think that really helped me stand out in that tryout. And, man, they put me on the practice team for a couple days, and then they saw, okay, this guy can play, with our players. Maybe he's not one of the best guys, but he's going to compete. And so, they put me on the team a couple days later, and I was so fortunate because it was such a wonderful experience being a part of that team for 2 years.
Yeah, the coaches that have had you, that have coached you, have said, the hard work, intensity, just the way you play the game out there is just incredible. And, you mentioned earlier you did not play a lot with USF, but there was a couple moments there where you made the most of your time. I remember versus Providence, obviously, the big steal. And then tell me about this three-point shot. You can't just do it easy. You got to make it big time. You hit a three-pointer versus UCF for your first points of your Big East career. Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was an amazing three for me. UCF was always a rival of ours, so when we played them, it was a game that we would really circle on the schedule because, it was an hour away from us. And we really wanted to beat them all the time. And so that game I happened to play a decent amount, and I was open in the corner one time, and I remember it was Chris Howard. He drove it, he kicked it to me in the corner, and I was fortunate enough to knock it down. And, it's funny because as a walk-on, you might only make, if you were playing 10 minutes a game, which I did, you might only make 10 or 15 threes in the season, right? Whereas you have a scholarship player who's a really good shooter might make 100 threes in a season. And so for me, as a walk-on, each three is so meaningful, and it's such a good feeling. And obviously, we won that game too. So having been a part of playing in a game that I was able to hit a three and then also win, it was a great experience. I loved it.
So your career at USF ends. I know you went on to Bowling Green as director of basketball operations. Then you met, I know, Lewis Rowe while you were there. Became assistant coach at JMU. Was there a point, whether you were playing basketball or was it after you played your college career, that you said, I want to get into coaching?
So, while I was playing, I was always really intrigued by the X's and O's and the strategy of things. And so I think that while I was playing, I really considered being a coach. And there was a guy by the name of Damon Arnett that many people probably don't know that name at all, but he was a player at FAU, and he was a really good player there, and he kind of was a guy who trained me growing up. And just the way he worked with me and helped me develop and just taught me and empathized, and he was hard on me at times, but he was also caring and loving, and he really made me actually, want to coach to some degree. And so then I went on, and I wanted to give it a chance as a GA. So I did a graduate assistant coach at the University of Miami under Coach Larinaga. And I did that for 2 years, and just watching. He was the Naismith Coach of the Year. He's been to a Final Four. He's been to 2 Sweet 16. And just watching him and observing him really kind of made me fall in love with coaching. And it was almost like, all right, I want to go to Miami and see how it is, this whole coaching thing. But then once I went through that, man, I loved it. Working with those players and player development and being able to observe some of the coaches that were there, that's when I really fell in love with it. I knew that I wanted to coach.
Lewis Rowe goes over to JMU, hires you as an assistant coach. Now, obviously, this year was not the type of year that you all expected. Very tough year. Lewis was let go. And as an assistant coach, or coach in general, what does A teach you, and can it help you in your future?
Absolutely, it can help us all going forward. And I think it will help the players too, because going through adversity like that is very difficult. And it's not easy for the players or the coaches. And so for me, one of the biggest things that I learned is I think you have to make sure you're consistent in your identity as a team. So if you watch the really good teams, right? If you watch the Syracuse of the world, you watch Virginia, they know what they are. Their players know what they are. Their coaches know what they are. Virginia's going to be a pack line defensive team for 40 minutes a game, and if you can beat them and you're better than them on that night, then so be it. And the same thing with Syracuse. They're going to play a 2-3 zone, and they're going to stick with it, and Boeheim's been doing it for 40 years. And so I think that, we started off one way in the beginning of the year. And we had a certain style we wanted to play. It was more of like an up-tempo style. And then on the side, we did some certain things as far as ball screen coverage. We started 7-4 in our non-conference, and then we started kind of modifying it a little bit and changing it. And to be honest with you, I was one of the people who suggested that we should do that. Coach Rowe, he's actually a really good coach this year, and we weren't great. I think he's a great coach. He's even a greater person. But what I think we should have really focused on is that identity part. And I think that we tried a bunch of different things, ball screen coverages, different style of offense, kind of going back. And I think it threw us off a little bit. And so one of the biggest things I learned from the season is stay consistent. Even though, you may lose a couple games here and there, or you may have a rough spell, if you can stay consistent, it's going to help you. Because you think about this, right? Let's say there's 1,000 possessions that your team plays on defense. Well, if they play 900 of those possessions the same way, opposed to playing 300 another way and 100 another way, which one do you think, right? If they play it 900 times, they're going to figure out all those small idiosyncrasies, and they're going to be much better at that style of defense. So I think identity and really kind of sticking to it was one of the big things that I learned a lot this year.
Privileged to have joining us on the Frankly Speaking Hotline, former USF player and former assistant James Madison University men's basketball coach, Ryan Kardok. Ryan, I know you've coached as an assistant coach in Miami. You've had some experience now with James Madison University. Do you feel comfortable if you were offered a head coaching job today? Are you comfortable enough with the experience that you have received?
I think so. I think that I would definitely have a learning curve, and I would not, have everything down right away. But one of the things I really like to focus on is that base of a program, that culture. And so I think I've had a lot of experience in the places I've been and taken, pride in leadership development, and teaching these guys things about life and that what's going to make a good program, small things like delaying immediate gratification, helping these players become the best. And so when I was at Miami for 2 years, one of our assistant coaches had a job at Bowling Green named Michael Huger, who's a really great person as well. And when I went with him as the video coordinator to start, we started that program from the ground up. So I did video for 1 year, and then I was the director of operations, almost like Coach Huger's right-hand man, for 3 years. And so I understand what it takes to build a program. So to give you an idea, we were okay the first and second year. We got better our third year. And then our fourth year, we lost in the MAC championship to Buffalo, who was obviously a very good team, and we won 22 games. We beat Buffalo at home that year when they were ranked number 15th in the country, and we kind of built the program up from the bottom, And so if you look at it, I've kind of done that as far as building a program. And then it's continued to go on. This past season, they won 20 games again, and that was the first time that Bowling Green has won 20 games for consecutive seasons. 49.
Wow.
So I do believe I have that experience of what it takes, knowing how to build up a culture, knowing how to leadership, instill that leadership development in guys, and knowing how to put a program together.
So, Ryan, what a basketball player. You get a recruit, he's coming to play for you. What is that recruit, or what is that player, if they accept the offer to come play with you, what are they getting from a philosophy and style of coaching in Coach Kardok?
I think the first and most important thing is someone who really cares about them as a person before they even care about them as a player. Because I think that's what we're in it for in coaching, right? Is that we care about these people and we help them grow up to be great young men. is really the testament of if we did a good job in coaching them. Are they good fathers? Are they good, husbands and things like that? And so that's where it starts. And then secondly, you're going to have someone who really to another level as well. I love watching film with guys. I love player development, getting in the gym with them. But I'm not going to let them off the hook easy. I know they want to be the best that they can be, and so I'm going to push them to be that. And I off the court, but when you're on the court with them, you want to push them to their max potential. And so, sometimes I speak with our guys and they laugh at me because when we're doing like conditioning drills and things like that, I tell them, you want to get in really good shape every time yourself until you feel like you're going to throw up. And if you feel like you're going to throw up, then you know you're pushing yourself hard enough. And if you don't, then you know you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And so things like that, you love on them, but you also push them to be the best they can be.
Now, is there a certain thing as a coach, I know every coach is different, that you look for in a player before you recruit them?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. I think it starts with a winner. If you can find someone who has won in high school and AAU, that's really key. You want guys that know how to win on your team. The second thing is toughness. Are they diving on the floor for loose balls? Are they playing hard? Just so when they come to college that you don't have to teach that. Another part of it would be coachability. Can you coach them? Like, can they take hard coaching if you get on them? Or are they going to go into a shell? And then another part would be a good teammate, right? And the culture of a team is so important. So you really want to have great teammates. You think about this, right, Larry? As far as the culture goes, if one guy is out of line in regards to the culture, it can bring your whole culture down. Because you think about this. That one guy has a roommate on the road. That one guy has 2 or 3 people that he's living with in an apartment. And he also is probably working out with another 1 or 2 guys at night. So there's 7 people that may be on the team he can influence. And if he has a bad attitude or he's not a great teammate, he may bring the rest of the team down. And so it's very important to find guys that are good teammates. And then the last part would probably be mental toughness. If you can find guys that are mentally tough and push through adversity, it's going to be very helpful for your team.
Coach, before I let you go, I have to ask you, because we're going through a time now in the U.S. that none of us have ever seen before. How weird for you, I mean, I know for us fans, but as a coach, how weird is it for you not to see March Madness going on? And I do want to put you on the spot a minute. If it was going on, who do you think would have won it?
It's really weird to not have it going on. I miss basketball so much. I understand, shutting everything down with the coronavirus, and it's the right thing to do. But it feels like a piece of me is missing not having this NCAA tournament. I think, obviously our whole lives, this is what we look forward to. And the time of the year, March is the best month. And so it's so strange not having it. And who do I think would win it all? I really like Gonzaga and Dayton this year. I think both of them were just such high-powered offensive teams. And I think it would have been really hard to stop them because they could just score at will. And then really, I'm a defensive guy. Obviously, you saw, Virginia win the championship last year with great defense. But those 2 teams were just so potent offensively that I think one of them probably would have won it.
Coach, I personally want to thank you so very much for joining us today. It's definitely been my pleasure, and I wish you, that pregnant wife of yours, much health over the next couple of months as we go through this.
Thanks so much, Larry. It was great to be with you.
All right, you have a great day.